Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brady. I will be your host tonight, and I'm joined by my lovely, lovely friend, my good buddy, Mikey Stevens from Staff and Graph, among other things. Mikey, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. There's nothing I want to talk about more than Canada's team, the Winnipeg Jets. Just like you love them. Um, boy, this a Winnipeg Jets hockey game. Let me
Yeah,
tell you.
yeah, that is exactly how I would put it. I mean, it's been very funny. Like Mikey and I are buddies and just in real life and stuff like that. So we obviously chat. He's following around the Leafs beat a lot more than the Jets, obviously. So I have to come in and always kind of pitch the Jets to them as this fun, dynamic team. They're a new team this year. They're different. And the game you joined me for is a game that feels very, very much like, maybe previous versions of the Winnipeg Jets. Of course, they do lose tonight 3-2 to the Nashville Predators. In general, Mikey, what did you think of the game? And then we'll hop into more specific things after.
If I'm gonna be real with you, I the Jets, they just don't have the juice to me, Like
Really?
it seems like that.
I get why you say that. Obviously tonight's game was a little bit different than the traditional Jets games that where they have been dominant in the previous games. I think the first thing we just have to talk about naturally, not the greatest game from Laurent Brossoit.
Yeah. So when we were when you'd pitched coming onto the show, I was excited. And then I looked at the game and I'm like, oh, the Predators, that could be good, whatever. And then I realized, oh, it's a Laurent Brossoit game. It's not a Connor Hellebuyck game.
But
Oh
but
boy.
but at the same time, it's like Laurent Brossoit has been a good goalie in the past. Like when he was with the Jets initially, he was a good
Absolutely.
goalie. When he dominated the Jets in the playoffs last year, he was very good. And so coming into this game, or not this game, and this season, like Laurent Brossoit has been this goaltender where we kind of, we lost him after he had performed very well with the Jets, and we finally got him back. And a big topic in Jets land has been we can't have Connor Hellebuyck playing 65
All the
games a
games.
year.
Yeah.
And now, this was his fifth game of the season. We've seen like one good performance out of him. So it is a little bit tough because coming into this game, like Connor Hellebuyck, pitched a shutout against the Florida Panthers 2 nights ago. There's a lot of topic of discussion on whether or not, you should start Connor Hellebuyck in a game like tonight, or if you should go to your backup in Laurent Brossoit. I would like your opinion. Maybe just try to keep the what ended up happening. What's your thoughts on LB getting the game tonight? For example, it was his fifth of the season. 20 games in, so about a quarter of the games. Yeah, what do you think? What do you think of his
He
game
needed
tonight?
to get in tonight. He needed to. Well, I didn't like his game tonight, but he needed to get into the game. You're right. Like I think other than Vasilevsky, I think the last goaltender to start 60 games in the same season they won a cup was 2011 Jonathan Quick, I believe, or 20
Ooh,
or 2012. Sorry, 2012 Jonathan Quick. So like it's the era of like the workhorse bell cow goaltender. It's not a thing anymore. Like it's you have to have it, maybe not like a pure tandem, maybe not a pure like Linus Allmark, Jeremy Swayman, like you basically split them down the middle type tandem, but you need to have somewhat of a 1B, maybe even a 1C, if you want to call it that. And look, Connor Hellebuyck, he's a phenomenal goaltender. He just re-signed for 7 years. So that's exactly what you want. Like you want to ride your horse, the guy that you're paying. But like you can't, like you said, you can't have this guy be playing like 60, 65 games a season and expect to go deep in the playoffs. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. The human body, in the way that the game is, doesn't work that way. So you needed to get Brossoit in there. But like looking at his numbers, like even before this game, and let's put that on the record, it was a bad game tonight. It was not a good
yeah.
game. So he was rocking an 875 coming into this game. That's Jack Campbell territory, man. Like that is
Don't say that
And I
name.
know
Don't say that name. Don't say that name
I
to
mean,
me.
listen, it just listen, I'm here to tell you to slap you in the face with the truth, okay? Like that's what we were dealing with. And I look, it's a small sample size. It's 5 games into the season, but like I look at the how hot the Jets have been. You know, they won 8 of their last 9, like you said. Like they've been, you know, on fire. One of the hottest teams in the league. A team that, and frankly, not getting enough love for that. I mean, I know I just said they you know, they don't have the juice, and it's just from sort of that game, because I looked at that game and I was like, wow, this is the Jets of old. But like you need to be able to rely on a goaltender like that, and they just didn't have it. Like he just didn't have it, and I don't know. Like he's been
It's
good in the past, that's great, but like that doesn't really buy you anything now.
Yeah, it was really frustrating because like at the start of the game, like and to kind of get more into how the game went
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the flow of the game. I was, and just for context, like the last game that Brossoit played, he actually played decently well. The Jets did really well at insulating him last game. This game tonight, I don't think they did that great at, especially considering, Nashville shouldn't be a super dangerous team, despite the fact that they've been hot recently.
Mm-hmm.
In the first period, I was really excited to talk about Brossoit because I thought that he started off the game and had some really, really important and good saves, some important moments. There was a moment where the Jets had just gotten like a flurry of shots on Saros, and we can talk about his game because he was phenomenal tonight. Where immediately after getting so many multiple chances where it's stopped by the opposing goalie, the Predators got 2 or 3 quality good chances against right after, and Brossoit looked good on those, and those are what's really important for a backup is to make at least like the timely saves because
Yeah.
I was sitting here going, those saves are so important because you can see how quickly the tide can turn in a game, and it just took a little bit longer to turn, unfortunately, tonight. But it was really, really unfortunate to see the way that the game kind of got away from the Jets. And I think that, despite the fact that they had won the right moment earlier on when he made those saves at the key time, he then lets in, a goal where I won't even say, here's the thing. He's not at fault for the puck going, like he is at fault for being miles out of his crease on this goal.
Yeah, this is the first goal we're talking about,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. And like, and it's also the timing of it too, because again, this is a goal that goes in with 40 seconds left in the period, and immediately, like, what's that supposed to do? Like, that just completely broke the confidence of the Jets, killed their momentum. We saw how the second period ended up going, which we'll get into in a minute, but I don't even know where to go from here. It's just it just really stinks because also at the same time it's like I think that very much so the blame on that goal can be put on Brossoit, but it is tough because at the same time you look at that goal and this is just a rush chance that the Predators got on the Jets where a big rebound comes out in front. Again, Brossoit shouldn't be miles out of the net, but he should have been able to, or hopefully you would hope that either Morrissey can clear the puck out from the net. You would hope that Scheifele or Connor picks up their guys in front. But I think that the first, yeah, not what you would expect from the Jets, right? Or at least from those players. But I think the first goal at very least, I think that despite the fact that Brossoit miles out of his crease, I think that there was more blame to go around the fact that the puck ended up in the net when it did. But then the second period happens, and Mikey, how bad was the Roman Josi goal on a scale of 1 to 10? Like we're talking like this happens to your team. How much doubt do you have in your goaltender for the rest of the game when this happens?
That's a controller thrower right there. Like that was a rough goal. I texted you being like, man, like you weren't kidding about like Brossoit struggling coming into this game. The thing is with Brossoit in this game too is like, first of all, against a team like Nashville on the road on like a Sunday night is exactly the type of situation that you want to put like your high end backup into. And that's exactly what Brossoit is. Like I remember I was talking with, can't remember who I was talking with about this, but we were at like a morning skate or something, and we were just like, I think Vegas was coming into town, and we were sort of like just lamenting about how the fact he's not in Vegas. We're like, man, like Brossoit's like maybe the best like pure backup in the league. Like that is exactly what you want to, the perfect situation you want to be able to rely on him for. But he, like, the thing is, he looked pretty good outside of the goals he let in. Like I just feel like the goals that he let in were rough, obviously, in a 1 goal game. And I know score effects took over, so who knows what the score could have been otherwise. But in a 1 goal game, like the margin for error is razor thin, and you cannot let a goal in like that, like the Roman Josi one. You just cannot. It surprised the fans, it surprised the players, it surprised me. It was it's just unacceptable, and it kind of went into, it just sort of seemed like a self-fulfilling prophecy where he struggled. He had a good game, like you said before, but he was struggling coming in on the whole. And man, just not a good one to let in.
Yeah, and as far as like the third goal goes for against, that one is just, again, one where where it just kills all of your confidence that you do have in your goalie. Again, sorry, not the third goal. Momentum killer, especially, and again, like you bookend the first period with a tough goal against, where you can definitely put some blame on him, and then you start the second period like that, and that immediately led to one of the most uninspiring, boring second periods. Yep. I cannot tell you I can't. Off the top of my head, I have to take notes no matter what when I do these games, but off the top of my head, there was barely anything I can tell you that happened in that second period, other than the goal that starts the period immediately off right away. That just, the Jesus Christ, that's burned into my brain.
Yeah.
And then of course they get the power play goal right after, which again happens immediately, like almost immediately once the power play starts. And that one, that is one where I will say Brossoit couldn't have done anything. There's just a backdoor goal. It is what it is, but
it's just a goal, like it's a goal.
And to conclude the Brossoit talk, would you say that, do you think the Jets win this game if Hellebuyck plays?
Absolutely they do. I mean, they outchanced, like it was like, I'm looking at their heat map. Like their shots came from more dangerous areas than Nashville's did. Like, of course they do. Speaking of the second period, Brad, like, I love you. I'll go in any show you tell me to. But during that second period, I was really like I was really doing like a mental laundry list of or like audit of my decision making for coming on. I was wondering what this episode was going to be like, just because I'm like, man, if this is the rest of the game, like I don't know if I'm good enough friends with anybody to sit through the rest of this. So look, it was a tough game. Every team has tough games. I feel like, and obviously we'll talk a bit more in depth about it, but like I feel like there's only so much. So you can only get so angry at a team that's won 8 of 9, and they drop a stinker like this. And also, like, to be fair, it could have been a lot worse. Like,
oh, absolutely.
The fact that it's a 1-goal game.
Well, I mean, eventually it got to be a 1-goal game.
Yes, eventually.
I was writing down my notes here, preparing my show list, and one of the things I had to talk about was Saros / the Jets didn't score any goals, and then almost immediately after that I had to scratch it out, which was very funny. But yeah, no, and I think that that's a great point to bring up, because if you said that in the last 10 games your team went 8-2, no one bats an eye at that. And tonight felt like, just to kind of talk a little bit more about the Jets as a whole, how they played tonight, like this just looked like a team that was tired. It looked like a team that was getting off the end of a road trip. And again, I don't want to make excuses for them. I'm very critical of the Jets. I know they can play better than they did tonight. But, it is also the reality. You're coming off a big, huge win. You're on the last game of your road trip. The vibes are good. And maybe you take your opponent a little bit lightly, at least coming into the game. And, that isn't right. Obviously, you can definitely criticize the Jets for doing that, but I also think it's important to remember the context that we're in here. I don't think the sky is falling or anything like that,
Definitely
obviously.
not. Definitely not.
And again, as you said, they probably win this game if if Connor Hellebuck's in that. Mikey, I wanted to ask you, in general, like, was there any notable players that kind of stuck out to you on the Jets tonight who you thought had maybe a good game, or just stood out to you for any reason? Good game, bad game. Just in general, would love to know. Did anyone pique your interest?
Well, I mean, obviously Kyle Connor, like he, every game I watch of Kyle Connor's, and the fact is, like, I'm looking at his, expected goals now, and he was just a smidge under 50%, but like that guy, he's just a great hockey player, man. But and Josh Morrissey, I mean, like the headliners, right? Like you got Kyle Connor and Josh Morrissey. I thought Alex Iafallo was very good tonight.
Really?
Yeah,
I see. This is really interesting because I personally, while I thought, looking at even just like the stats here, seeing like Kyle Connor had 6 shots on goal, and even just talking about in general that top line, I felt like they just didn't have it tonight. Like, I don't know what it was, but it felt like, as Mark Scheifele especially looked really, really out of it in regards to it. Like he just wasn't getting the bounces. He looked kind of just out of place, out of sync. And for me, like, as much as I will applaud Kyle Connor for his game, because I thought in general he had some really good moments tonight, both on the offensive side of the puck, and he even had a couple pretty good back checks, which is not something we get to say very often. But I don't know, like, I just felt like all of the shots that Connor had felt like these rush chances where you're just kind of coming in, you're taking a wrist shot from wherever, and it's just kind of going into, like, it didn't really feel like Saros needed to make any really tough saves on really anyone on that line. I mean, other than the big flurry at the start of the game. Maybe you think differently, but that at least that's the way I saw it.
No, listen, there are very few players on the Jets tonight that played well, I would say. Like, it's, I thought that Josh Morrissey had a phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He is a legitimate defenseman, man. Like he is in that conversation. He should be, included in those conversations when we talk about very good, if not, I don't know if I want to say elite, but like very, very good defenseman. Like 23 minutes, at even strength, just dominating it. But I'm talking this contextually, right? Like the first line, yes, they didn't necessarily have it, considering, they didn't have a ton of offense. I thought obviously Cole Perfetti was pretty good, getting the 3-2 goal and all that. But like, it just, you look at their numbers and they were the best, that top line, you look at their numbers and they were the best line statistically, which, even on a night where they didn't necessarily have it, like that goes to show maybe there needs to be some depth injected here. Maybe there needs to be some extra secondary scoring. I don't know. But I don't just
in regards to secondary scoring with like the Jets, like normally the secondary scoring has come in very heavily through obviously the Nemesnikov Perfetti line, but also the Lowry Appleton Nino line usually is a lot better. I thought they played well in general in regards to constantly bringing like the forecheck on, making sure they were constantly on the other team. But I thought that they among the rest of the team had it was very difficult to see the puck management just in general for the Jets as a whole. It felt like they were losing the puck at moments that were unnecessary dump-ins, and I thought that while that line, I will say, I want to praise their forechecking, it felt like they weren't really able to create anything with it. So I think that that's where, in the past, like that line is kind of played as almost the Jets' second line. And that's kind of, I think, where the ball got dropped tonight, in regards to offense. Maybe, sorry, was that to me or something else? Outside? My bad. Sorry.
We got a siren situation in the background. They're coming for your hot takes, Brad.
But like saying Kyle Connor had a couple good back checks today. But sorry, but I do want to bring you back to the first line really quickly, because right now in Jets land, there's been a big talk about Gabe Vilardi, because Gabe Vilardi is penciled to come back any day now, really. I think he's going to be a game time decision on Tuesday against the Stars. Initially, to start the season, he was playing, he was the third guy on the Scheifele Connor line, and that line looked really, really good. And with Iafallo on this top line, it's kind of given them a bit more of a worker rather than kind of a more skilled player. But at the same time, we've kind of seen, like, I thought tonight Iafallo didn't really bring a lot to, like, while he was in the right areas, he was battling for pucks. It just felt like that top line didn't feel like a top line. And I think the easy weak link to point out on that line is Iafallo. There's been a lot of discussion on where Gabe Vilardi goes when he comes back. I know you're not as well versed in the Jets lineup as I am, maybe, or some other people, but just off of the top of your head, where do you think you would throw that guy? Do you think you would start him off kind of slower down the lineup, give him some reps, or maybe toss him back in the top line, kind of where he was, or throw him with the second line somewhere?
I would probably get him going and well, I don't know. Like, Gabe Vilardi is an interesting case because he does seem to thrive more, and I could be wrong on this, but just from even in the past, like, he does seem to thrive more when put in top six, sort of like offense first sort of situations. I mean, most players do, but I mean, he's a player that specifically kind of needs that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a tough conversation to have because I think he does fit best on that top line. Like, as much as I thought that, like, I and this is just like an eye test type of thing. Like, I saw a couple, good separations from the puck from Iafallo tonight, but he is definitely the weak link on that line. I mean, from the little bit that I saw, I see of Jets Twitter, that's not solely you, on the old timeline there. There was a lot of I saw a lot of sort of like ballyhooing that Iafallo was there. That he was the guy who was going to fill in on that top line. So do you want to throw him right back into the fire? Or do you want to sort of, like, I would say, pencil him in on that third line, let him get his legs under him for a couple games, 2 or 3, and then put him back up with the big guns in Connor and Scheifele. But if he's healthy, if he's ready, like, how long has he been out?
Oh boy, since I think he played like 3 or 4 games, like he's missed.
Oh yeah, then you definitely put him on that Appleton third line. Like you figure out some sort of way to slot him in there, get his legs under him. He's missed like a month and a bit. Like, you can't toss him right back on the top line, expect him to fit in there perfectly. And Iafallo is good enough to sort of he's good enough in that spot right now to sort of like be a placeholder. That's kind of what he's there for, right? Like, to be a placeholder until Vilardi comes back. And even though he is back, you want him to be back. You don't want him to.
You don't want to rush it.
Yeah, you don't want him to drag down other people as well. You don't want him to go through, because Vilardi, he's a guy who is impacted a lot by confidence, right? And you don't want him to toss him out there in a situation that he might not be suited for yet, coming back from his recovery, and that just kind of tanks his confidence for like a month. And you go, all right, well, now we've just wasted 2 months of Gabe Vilardi. That's not great. So you want to do so. I would say, like, toss him on the third line, get his legs under him, and then kind of go from there.
For sure. And it's funny because with the Jets, like, you can't really say who the second and third line is, because the Lowry line usually ends up playing more than the Nemestikov Ehlers line. But I digress. That's neither here nor there. Anyways, let's move on a little bit. One last thing, I will talk about it later on, maybe on another day, but I thought Pionk had a really good game tonight. I think he's been an absolute marvel for the Jets since this year in comparison to years previous. But I don't think we will have a ton of time to talk about that, because I want to talk with you about the trade market.
Ooh, yeah.
And obviously, I'm going to ask for it to be a little bit related to the Jets.
It can be fully related to the Jets. I'm on Game Over Winnipeg.
Exactly. In regards to, obviously you only really got to see one game tonight. What do you think the Jets should be targeting on the trade market if, if this team is what we believe it to be, a potential, team that can make a lot of noise in the playoffs this year? Where do you think they should be looking to upgrade? And are there any names that kind of fit the bill in regards to that?
Dude, they need forward depth. I find they need scoring depth.
So it's funny because the Jets forward, like we would consider the Jets to have a lot of forward depth, but I think I think they need more scoring is the issue. Like
yes.
that is absolutely, I 100% agree with you. That like a scoring winger or center, like they've got a lot of guys who could play center on this team, but magically Nemestikov seems to be the guy who works on that second line. Are there any guys who in particular who you think may be able to be pried loose, might be able to fit well? Who are the guys you're looking at?
Well, I think and this guy is probably not available just because he just signed a contract with the team. But I mean, in addition, along those lines is kind of what the Leafs did by getting Noel Achari last year. A guy like that to inject on even like that fourth line, a guy who is potentially can give more than Axel Janssen, Fialbi, or even a Morgan Barron. Just
Ooh,
someone. Yeah, listen,
sorry,
listen. He played a team low 651 at 5-on-5 tonight. He did well in his minutes. He did all right, but if you're not going to use him, you want to slot someone in there who's maybe a bit more experienced or someone who can complement him.
Yeah, I think a lot of that though also has to do with the Jets trying to come back and scoring. I feel like on another night he probably plays a little bit more and has a bit more of a bigger impact. And also there weren't that many penalties tonight too. He usually plays a lot more on the PK. But I do agree with you. I think that scoring would be absolutely the what they need to target. I worry that a Noel Achari type player might be a little too much kind of like the grit, the gritty kind of guys. Whereas if the Jets are going to get gritty scorers, I would prefer probably maybe a guy closer to Nino Niederreiter, who they got last year. For me personally, I think that the Jets, first of all, they still need to get another top four defenseman. I would love to see what like a Chris Tanev could look like if he was playing beside Josh Morrissey. Although he does have
any of the Flames impending UFAs,
exactly
any of even Zadorov, Tanev, or even if you really want to make a swing for it, Hanifin, I think would fit phenomenally. And up front, I think I've said this to you last year, but Connor Garland, I think would look great.
Dude, Connor Garland had a lot of Jets fans really, really excited because there were a lot of rumors that he was going to be available for trade, and then also at the same time that the Jets were going to be one of the teams that were in on it. But then I guess
should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like I guess nothing has really happened there. Another team which has been, or not another team, another name that has been kind of bandied about in Jetsland, and I would love to know if you think that this would even be possible, is a guy like a Pavel Buchnevich on the Blues.
Are you kidding me? If you're able to get that guy, you get him yesterday.
Well,
Buchnevich is phenomenal.
Of course, but I mean more like in the lines of, do you think that a guy like that could potentially become available? Do you think the Blues will be at a point who do you see really as sellers this year? And then that's kind of how you have to, navigate the decision on who's you're going to go for, right?
See, that's tough, right? Especially because they're teams that were expected to be good, that have had rocky starts, and you go okay, well, are they going to sell, or are they going to are they intending to sell, or is this just a rocky start? And as well with the way that the Florida Panthers made their run last year, there are going to be a lot of teams who are 5 or 6 points out of the playoff spot by the deadline and go well, all we got to do is get in, and we're just like the Panthers, we can do that. I feel like it's going to be somewhat of a seller's market, just because it's going to be supply and demand. There's not going to be a ton of sellers out there because a lot of teams are going to delude themselves into thinking why not us, right? But for example, they say that they want to win, a lot more, and they say they want to be a bit more, I don't know, respectable. But I would take a look at anyone on the Coyotes. I mean, go for Dumba. Dumba is a great rental option, and these
Mhm.
are all rentals. But like Jason Zucker, for instance, I think would be
Oh,
a great
yeah.
addition.
Mhm.
Like if he'd cost a bit, I think, just because you'd probably have to do 50% retained and all that, like which is not ideal. And also, he's not off to a super hot start. He's only got like 4 goals in 13 games, no assists, that kind of thing. But I think he would be a great guy to insert into that middle six. He's a scorer. He's got that proven track record. And he's also on an expiring contract, so who knows? And he's someone who, he's 32. He's not part of their plan. And also, like Matt Dumba, if you're looking for that top four defenseman, like you're talking
Mhm.
about, I think he is a perfect fit. Like he is a guy who would really benefit kind of the way that this team plays. Um, Obviously, again, like on that expiring deal, uh, I think you'd be a great sort of rental. But man, Connor Garland, it seems like Connor Garland and Jason Zucker are these two guys that I think would just fit perfectly into that middle six. They would give them like the juice, as I was talking
Mhm.
before. Like it would give the Jets kind of a bit of that spark because you like look, there's a difference between like depth, or there's a difference between I guess like having bodies and having depth. I
Mhm.
feel like the Jets have bodies. In the event of injuries, in the event of like whatever, you have the ability to slot guys in there and be good bodies. They're NHL bodies. But when it comes to making an impact, outside of the big ticket guys, outside of
Yeah.
even like I feel like, and again, this is just sort of like on paper, there's not a ton there. In adding a Garland, adding a Zucker,
Well, yeah,
someone.
I mean, and like if you look at the Jets lineup right now, like and that's what I like. I'm trying to figure exactly where the holes are to
Mhm.
fill in. And as much as I've absolutely loved what Mason Appleton has brought to this team this year. It's like
Mhm.
a Stanley Cup winning team has a Mason Appleton on their fourth line, not their third,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And so I feel like that's kind of the slot where, again, I think Connor Garland is like the perfect fit for that third line
He's
on
that
the right.
Tetris piece.
Exactly. It would be like adding another version of Nito Niederreiter, just
Mhm.
smaller, maybe hits a little bit less, but is just a maniac in regards to um,
He's a puck hound,
stat.
yeah.
Exactly. And he's a
Yeah.
scorer too. And again, then that makes that third line again even more like a second line that you can lean on. Um, Alrighty, well, that has been a lot here. I will, quickly throw to the chat and see if there are any questions here for me or Mikey, preferably Mikey, because we don't get to have this lovely guy here with us all the time. Um, from J Money, here is one.
Okay.
Why do you specifically think the Jets are better than the Leafs, like you've claimed every day on Twitter? Love your Jets being good takes.
This referring to me,
Yes, yeah,
because I
yeah,
am the guy who has said that the Jets are better than the Leafs every day on Twitter.
yeah,
Well, it's just because I like spitting facts. I just like telling the truth.
yeah.
I'm a journalist, and it's just embedded in the truth. Look, I think the Jets are doing great this year. Like the fact that this team did so well, while given the we have to talk the fact that like this was Rick Bonus's second game back.
Mhm.
What team thrives the way the Jets have when their head coach has to step away, for like what was it, like at least 2 weeks,
Yeah.
like 2 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Like that's extremely important. And on top of that, there's the emotional impact of that. I this seemed this they seems like or they seem like they have turned somewhat of a corner. Obviously, tonight was a bit of a setback, but like every team has setbacks. Yeah, I cover the Leafs. Believe me, every game's a setback. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot to like about this Jets team. As much as I razz you, I josh around with you, Brad. But yeah, these Jets are they're giving they're gonna make you start buying tickets out there again, and I think that's
Putting
what we
butts
can
in
all
seats.
that's what we can all hope for.
Exactly. I am glad you brought up the Rick Bonus thing because I personally haven't mentioned it.
Mhm.
Sorry, I didn't do the Florida game the other day. It really is interesting to see the way again a terrible thing to happen to his wife Judy, but it's fantastic to see that she is doing better. Now she's
Absolutely.
even flying with the team. She'll be coming back with them to Winnipeg, and then she'll be staying in Winnipeg. Hopefully, going forward, and hopefully there's no setbacks. But I also think that one of the things that has really been key for the Jets this year is that the vibes are really good. And
Completely different, it seems.
yeah, like the removal of Blake Wheeler last year as captain didn't really work, because I think the Jets had a good first half of the season, and then I think things kind of slowly returned back to kind of the more, I'm not going to use the word, I don't want to use the word toxic, but just not good, let's just say. Whereas this year it really feels like Adam Lowry has really righted the ship in regards to leadership wise. As terrible as it has been, the horrible things that have happened to the people around the Jets, both Adam Johnson and his connection to Neil Pionk, Alex Iafallo, among others, as well as Judy Bonus, having Rick take some time away from the team. I feel like these, at the end of the day, the only silver lining you can take away from it is that it brought this team together. And I think that is one of the key points as to why they have been playing very, very well. I think that this is a team that will fight for each other. Again, tonight was a tough outing for them, but this is a team I actually feel very confident in regards to the possibilities that can happen. I think if they make the right moves, if they do the right retools at the deadline, I think that this team could be scary going into the playoffs. And Mikey, I'll let you have any final notes here, because I think we're gonna probably end it off on that. If you feel free to plug anything you got going on, do your thing.
Yeah, well, I'm for the time being at the Hockey News, so read my stuff over there. Staff and Graph podcast. Myself and Rachel Dory, we're pumping out the content. It's going great, so we're doing that. And yeah, look, the Jets are in a great place. I would love to do this again, Brad. If you ever need someone, watching Jets hockey is a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be, at least. So that's good. But yeah, no, like Jets fans, you should be very happy, despite the fact that this was somewhat of a lackluster game. I think you should be very happy and optimistic, because it does seem, just from an outside perspective, that the vibes are a lot different. And vibes really, really do matter over the course of an 82 game, 8-month season. So you can all sleep well tonight.
For sure. And with that, we are going to leave you. Make sure to follow Mikey on Twitter at Mikey Stevens 81. Follow myself at NHL Chunky. Follow at SDPN Sports. Like the stream. Subscribe to SDPN. We're almost at 100K subs. Please do that. We would really appreciate it. Anyways, have yourselves a wonderful week. The Jets will be back at it on Tuesday. Liz will be here to take you through that game. But thanks for tuning in. Have yourselves a wonderful evening.